From the moment Maria set foot in Redwood City's hottest restaurant, she had no idea her life would change forever by the end of her night shift. The waft of garlic pepper and sizzling steak wasn't what made her heart pound. It was the rumor that a certain notoriously wealthy millionaire, known for both his staggering fortune and unpredictable temper, had just arrived. Chaos was about to erupt like never before. And in the midst of clinking glasses, murmured gossip, and a tense manager pacing behind the bar, a quiet waitress made a choice that would send shockwaves through the entire restaurant, and far beyond. Maria Contreras had never been a stranger to hard work. At 28 years old, she stood a modest 5'4", wore her thick black hair in a bun to keep it away from the plates she carried, and had an infectious smile that brightened even the dreariest shifts. As she walked into Sakura Redwood Steakhouse that fateful evening, the pristine white tablecloths, elegant teakwood chairs, and dim mood lighting welcomed her to yet another busy Saturday. Though the day had barely ended, the restaurant was already brimming with families, couples on dates, and local business people eager to celebrate small victories. A sense of excitement crackled in the air. Part of it sprang from the monthly wine tasting event the restaurant was hosting, but there was also a rumor swirling among the staff. Alexander Farnsworth, a wealthy, larger-than-life local figure known for spontaneous splurges and equally unpredictable meltdowns, had made a reservation. It wasn't unusual for millionaires to dine at Sakura Redwood Steakhouse, because Redwood City had its fair share of tech entrepreneurs and venture capitalists. But Farnsworth was in a league of his own. People said he had grown up in Redwood City, left to chase business in Europe, and returned with an empire. The exact details were often cloaked in gossip, which varied from a string of real estate deals to rumored shady dealings in overseas markets. Regardless, one thing was certain: Farnsworth had money, and he knew how to flaunt it. In the kitchen, the staff bustled about. Alfredo, the head chef, barked orders for well-done steaks, medium-rare roasts, and the restaurant's signature shrimp scampi. The sous chef Clarita gave a little wave to Maria as she slipped by with a fresh tray of bread. Even amid the frantic pace, there was a collective curiosity about Farnsworth's arrival. "All I know," began Jason, a fellow server who towered over Maria at 6'3", "is that Farnsworth likes his whiskey. And if it's not top shelf, he throws a fit." "Right," Maria said, blowing a stray hair off her forehead. "And we have top shelf everything tonight. So maybe he'll be happy." Jason shrugged. "Or not. He's never really happy." Maria chuckled, but tucked away a note in the back of her mind. Farnsworth was known to be a heavy drinker. She had served difficult patrons before, celebrity chefs who demeaned the staff, corporate moguls who'd snap for service. But Farnsworth felt different, like a swirling storm that pulled everyone in. Tables were filled quickly as the evening wore on. Couples clinked glasses of wine while leaning in for private conversations, the gentle hum of conversation mixed with the tunes of light jazz from the overhead speakers. Maria expertly weaved through the throng of customers, delivering plates with a graceful precision she'd perfected over years of waitressing. Despite the chaos, she found solace in the mechanical repetition. Greet, serve, water, present the specials, take orders, confirm wine pairings, ensure satisfaction, and repeat. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. During a lull between tables, she took a quick peek. A message from her sister, Anita Contreras, flashed on the screen. "Mum's test results came in today. We need to talk after your shift." Her stomach sank. Their mother had been struggling with her health for months, and the doctors were still trying to get a clear diagnosis. Maria bit her lip, worry clouding her thoughts. She typed a quick reply. Of course. I'll call you as soon as I'm off. Love you. Then she slipped the phone back in, determined to keep her professional smile. Not long after 9 o'clock, an unmistakable hush spread across the dining room. Even though Farnsworth didn't walk in with an entourage, his presence was magnetic. Tall, broad-shouldered, and exuding an old-world charm, he strode in wearing a custom-tailored navy blue suit. A glint of gold cufflinks sparkled under the ambient light, and his slicked-back hair gleamed with product. The hostess, Nikki, who rarely showed emotion, could hardly contain her giddy nerves as she led him to a secluded table near the large bay window that faced Redwood City's bustling main street. All eyes gravitated toward him, some with curiosity, others with suspicion. Farnsworth nodded casually at a few onlookers who recognized him. Once seated, he drummed his fingers on the table, glancing around with a critical eye. His gaze settled on the bar. Jason was about to head in his direction, but the manager, Daniel Robles, stepped in. Maria Daniel called, beckoning her aside with a subtle wave. Tall, balding, and usually calm, Daniel wore a black vest over a crisp white shirt. I want you to take Farnsworth's table. Maria blinked. Me shouldn't, Jason? I trust you. You're good at de-escalating situations. Daniel murmured, his tone grim. Farnsworth's already had a couple of drinks in the city tonight, from what I hear. If anyone can handle him, it's you. A knot of anxiety tightened in Maria's stomach. She took a deep breath and forced a smile. All right. I've got this. Maria approached Farnsworth's table with her usual composed grace. He was swirling an imaginary drink, perhaps wishing there was already whiskey in his hand. She noticed the faint flush in his cheeks, likely from prior alcohol consumption. Good evening, Mr. Farnsworth, she began, voice steady. Welcome to Sakura Redwood Steakhouse. May I start you off with a drink, or let you see a menu first? Farnsworth flicked his gaze to her name tag. Maria, is it? He barely waited for her nod before continuing. I'll have your best whiskey. Neat. Actually, make it a double. She noted that request. The manager had earlier warned the staff to keep an eye on Farnsworth's alcohol intake if he arrived looking intoxicated. Yet Farnsworth seemed only mildly tipsy so far. She forced a professional smile. Right away, sir. She returned with a small dish of complimentary nuts and the bar's most expensive single malt whiskey. Farnsworth sipped it, savoring the taste, then nodded approvingly. At least they know how to stock a bar here. Maria exhaled inwardly, relieved that Farnsworth wasn't immediately displeased. Would you like to hear our specials tonight, or would you prefer something else? He waved her closer as if to share a secret. I've eaten in every 5-star restaurant from here to Paris, he said, his breath heavy with alcohol. I've known some of the greatest chefs personally, from Thomas Keller to Gordon Ramsay. Just give me the best steak you have. Rare. And keep my glass full. Already Maria could sense a faint hostility simmering beneath the surface. She jotted down the order, Wagyu rib-eye extremely rare, and nodded. I'll be back shortly, Mr. Farnsworth. A few minutes later, while Farnsworth was fixated on swirling his whiskey, the rest of the dining room seemed on edge. Conversations hushed into whispers about that's Alexander Farnsworth, the millionaire. And remember when he spent $30,000 on champagne? In one night. The staff tried to mind their own business, but Farnsworth's presence was a gravitational force. Maria placed his steak order with Alfredo in the kitchen. When she returned with Farnsworth's amuse-bouche, a delicate spoonful of seared tuna with a miso glaze, she noticed his whiskey glass was already empty. He was tapping his foot anxiously. He smirked. You've got good instincts. He downed half of it immediately. So do you like working here, or do you do it because you have to? She paused, uncertain whether the question was rhetorical or genuine. I like it, actually. It's a good place to meet interesting people. And yet you serve the same crowd every night, Farnsworth remarked, leaning back in his chair. You look like someone who wants to do more. Maria shrugged, unconvinced this conversation was heading anywhere productive. I appreciate your concern, Mr. Farnsworth. Let me check on your steak. And with that, she politely excused herself, comforted by the knowledge that Farnsworth's meal should arrive in a few minutes. A subtle transformation was taking place in Farnsworth's demeanor. The second whiskey arrived, then a third, though Maria initially managed the situation by bringing smaller pours each time. She had to weigh the restaurant's desire not to offend a high-paying patron against her ethical responsibility to cut him off if he became too intoxicated. His posture began to slump slightly. With each passing moment, Farnsworth's eyes grew more glassy, his voice louder. By the time his rare Wagyu arrived, he was halfway through the second glass, and the tension in his jaw indicated mounting irritability. He poked at the steak. I can still see a bit of pink. I asked for rare. Don't they know what rare means in this kitchen? Maria's lips pressed into a thin line. Of course, sir. That is indeed a rare cook, but if you're not satisfied, I can send it back. He took a bite, then slammed his fork down a bit harder than he intended. Tch, it's fine. Just bring me another double. And make it quick. Maria hesitated for a moment. This was the line she worried about crossing. Farnsworth's speech was becoming slurred. She cleared her throat. Sir, I'm sorry, but it's our policy not to overserve customers who appear. He shot her a glare that threatened to shatter any polite veneer. Finish your sentence. She felt the weight of every pair of eyes in the restaurant fix on them. Farnsworth's face was reddening, his chest rising and falling. She clasped her hands together. I'm concerned, sir. You've had quite a bit to drink. Perhaps some water or maybe. Her heart pounded. This was the moment she'd dreaded Farnsworth had crossed over from the realm of a merely tipsy customer to a belligerent one. She inhaled sharply. Mr. Farnsworth, if you'd like some more time, or if you'd prefer a coffee. He cut her off. Do you know who I am? I've built businesses that make more in a week than you'll see in a lifetime. I could buy this entire place if I wanted to. You do not tell me what I can or cannot drink. Nikki, the hostess, and Jason, the other server, exchanged worried glances from across the room. Daniel, the manager, was on the phone near the bar, but he watched the interaction closely, face grim. Maria swallowed. She recited the line she'd learned in countless staff trainings. We reserve the right to refuse service if a patron appears intoxicated. I'm sorry, but I can't serve you another drink. Would you like me to call you a car, or would you prefer Farnsworth shot up from his chair, the heavy wooden table rattling? Cutlery clanged to the floor. People at nearby tables turned their heads, startled. In the hush that followed, Farnsworth glared at Maria, eyes narrowed. Are you insane? You dare humiliate me in front of these people. I'll ruin you. I'll ruin this restaurant. Maria felt her cheeks grow hot, but she stood her ground. Sir, I'm sorry you feel humiliated. That was never my intention. But I can't serve you more alcohol tonight. In the silence that followed, Farnsworth's fury filled the room like thick smoke. He took a step toward Maria, towering over her. For a moment she thought he was about to push her or worse, but Farnsworth just slammed his fist on the table, rattling the plates. "I want the owner of this place, or the manager, someone with actual authority. You're fired, you hear me?" "Fired." Maria's pulse throbbed in her ears. She glanced around, spotting Daniel hurrying over. Her hands were shaking, though she tried to keep them steady at her sides. She had refused to serve him a drink, which was her right. Now she wondered if she'd still have a job tomorrow. Daniel arrived, sliding in between Farnsworth and Maria. "Mr. Farnsworth," he said, voice calm, yet firm. "I'm Daniel Robles, the manager here. Let's step aside and talk." He placed a hand on Farnsworth's elbow, guiding him away from the center of the room. Maria let out a breath of relief as Farnsworth turned away. She quietly crouched down to pick up a stray fork. But the entire restaurant was abuzz. People whispered fervently, some even pulled out their phones, perhaps recording the scene. The hush felt suffocating. She could see a few customers looking at her with sympathy, others with fear. Jason came over gently, touching her shoulder. "You okay?" She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Yeah, I just didn't think it'd blow up like this." Nikki, who overheard, added, "You did the right thing, Maria. Don't let him scare you." Maria mustered a weak smile. She felt validated by her colleagues, yet dread still twisted in her stomach. Farnsworth was a powerful man, rumored to have strong connections in Redwood City. If he wanted to, he could stir up trouble for her and for the restaurant. Daniel led Farnsworth toward a more private corner by the bar. The manager maintained his professional composure as Farnsworth ranted about how incompetent, disrespectful, and ungrateful the staff were. Maria stayed at her station, attending to other tables as best she could. But she couldn't ignore the uneasy glances from patrons who had clearly witnessed the altercation. Minutes ticked by, feeling like hours. Finally, Daniel approached Maria. He spoke softly. "He's demanding we serve him another drink, or he'll take his business elsewhere and sue us for defamation." Daniel rubbed the bridge of his nose. "I'm not going to bend on this. I support you. We're refusing to serve him more alcohol." Despite her trembling nerves, a wave of gratitude swept over Maria. "Thank you. The last thing I want is to cause trouble for the restaurant. You did exactly what you were trained to do," Daniel affirmed. "Now Farnsworth said he'll pay for his meal and leave, but he wants to speak with you one more time." Maria tensed. "I'm not sure that's a good idea. I know." But he insisted. "He says he wants to have a word in private." I told him I'd only let it happen if it's out in the open, not behind closed doors. Daniel frowned. "If you're uncomfortable, I'll tell him it's off the table." She considered her options. Part of her just wanted Farnsworth gone. But if she refused, would it escalate him further? "I'll talk to him, but only if it's out here." Daniel nodded. "I'll stay close." Farnsworth sat on a bar stool, swirling a glass of water. Daniel had given him an obvious concession to keep the peace. He looked up when Maria approached, a bitter smirk tugging at his lips. Maria's heart pounded. She stood a few feet away, arms crossed lightly at her waist, ready to bolt if he got aggressive again. "You wanted to speak with me, sir?" "Let's be civil for a moment," Farnsworth said, trying to steady his voice. "I can see you're what would you call it? Diligent employee. You follow the rules by the book, and I can respect that." He huffed out a breath. "But you also need to learn that the world isn't black and white. People like me, we pay your salary. We are the reason restaurants like this can afford nice things." Maria bristled, but she maintained her composure. "I understand that you help local businesses thrive with your patronage, and I'm sure that's appreciated. But there's a limit, sir." He tilted his head, eyes narrowed. "I'm a grown man. I can decide for myself how much I want to drink." "That may be so," she replied, "but I can't be a party to over-serving. It's not personal, it's policy." Farnsworth seemed to consider this swirling the water as if it were whiskey. "You know, I'm not used to hearing no. Not from my employees, not from my partners, not from anyone." "That might be part of the problem," Maria said softly, surprising even herself with her candor. She expected him to explode again, but instead he let out a short, humorless laugh. "Maybe you have a point." His eyes flicked to the side, noticing Daniel hovering a few steps away. "Anyway, I'm leaving soon. But I want you to know if I hadn't been drinking before I got here, you probably wouldn't have had to deal with all of this. I'm not apologizing exactly, just make sure you watch your back. People in Redwood City talk. You don't want to make enemies, especially among the wealthy." A chill ran through her. "Is that a threat?" He gave a half shrug. "A warning. This city is full of social climbers and opportunists. You never know who you might offend by doing the right thing." With that cryptic remark, Farnsworth stood, threw a few $100 bills onto the bar, far more than the meal cost, and walked out. Daniel hovered protectively until Farnsworth disappeared through the glass doors. The immediate burst of tension dissipated as Farnsworth left, but echoes of the confrontation lingered. Tables resumed their conversations, yet the buzz was different, like a collective exhale after something dramatic. Some customers asked Maria if she was okay offering supportive words or extra tips. Others seemed quietly appalled, not wanting to get involved. She accepted the sympathy with a gracious smile, trying to maintain her professionalism. Still, her hands shook when she returned behind the counter to fill up water glasses. Daniel patted her shoulder. "You all right?" She gave a quick nod. "Yeah. Thank you for backing me up. I was so worried you're not in trouble. If anything, you're an example of the right way to handle a volatile situation." He offered a reassuring grin. "Finish your shift, then go home and rest. If Farnsworth calls to complain to corporate, we'll deal with it." "Understood." Touched by his support, Maria nodded. "Understood." Still, as she moved about the restaurant for the remainder of the evening, Farnsworth's warning played like a broken record in her mind. You never know who you might offend by doing the right thing. By the time Maria finished her shift and stepped out into the cool Redwood City night, the sting of Farnsworth's words still lingered. The vibrant city lights illuminated the narrow streets, and a row of palm trees danced in the gentle breeze. She pulled out her phone to call her sister Anita about their mother's test results. But before she could dial, she noticed a black SUV parked nearby. The tinted window slowly rolled down. For a split second, her heart leapt into her throat, conjuring images of Farnsworth or his associates. Instead, the driver was an unfamiliar middle-aged woman, short black hair, with a phone in her hand. The glare from the streetlight made it hard to read her expression. Once their eyes met, the window rose and the SUV pulled away, its tires crunching the gravel on the side of the road. Maria frowned. Was she being paranoid, or was someone actually watching her? She shook off the unease. Redwood City was a lively place. It wasn't unusual to see fancy cars around. Farnsworth's remark about watching your back was just an empty threat. Right. She slipped into her own slightly dented Honda Civic and dialed Anita. Over the next 30 minutes, she learned their mother's health had taken a turn for the worse. They needed more tests. A potential expensive procedure might be on the horizon. Maria's shoulders slumped against the seat. She already worked overtime to help cover basic bills. Where would they find additional money for such a procedure? On her drive home, Farnsworth's parting words echoed. People in Redwood City talk. You don't want to make enemies. But what if Farnsworth wasn't the only one talking? Sunday mornings at Sakura Redwood Steakhouse were usually a calm affair, featuring brunch specials and a jazz quartet. Maria always arrived early to help with setup. As soon as she walked in, she noticed a heavy tension among the staff. Jason waved her over, face pale. Maria, you won't believe what happened. Farnsworth posted about you on some Redwood City influencer's social media page. He called you that waitress who thinks she's above her station. Jason winced. He's claiming you insulted him, that you refused him service just to get attention. He's basically painting himself as a victim. Maria's stomach did a somersault. You've got to be kidding me. Jason shook his head. Wish I was. Daniel's been on calls with corporate since this morning. When Maria reached the office, she found Daniel and the restaurant's owner, Lionel Jacobs, hunched over a laptop. Lionel was a lean man with salt and pepper hair and a stern expression that betrayed hours of stress. We can't let Farnsworth's narrative go unchallenged, Daniel said, pointing at the screen. Look at how many shares this post has already. Lionel sighed. He's basically accusing us of disrespecting paying customers. He's threatening to sue if we don't apologize publicly. The post is lighting up local gossip sites. Redwood City has a lot of Farnsworth supporters, especially in real estate and tech circles. They eat up his flamboyant personality. Daniel noticed Maria in the doorway. Oh, Maria. Come in. She stepped inside, trying to keep her voice calm. Is he specifically naming me? Lionel nodded. He used your first name, described you, and pinned the blame on you. He paused. Look, we value you, Maria. But Farnsworth is stirring up a PR nightmare. Maria's anxiety spiked. What does that mean for me? It means we have to be careful, Lionel said. He's threatening legal action, although it's probably baseless. But we need to handle this diplomatically. We can't feed into his narrative that we mistreat customers. I did what our policies say to do, Maria said, voice trembling slightly. I refused to overserve a clearly intoxicated patron. That's not mistreatment. That's following the law. Absolutely, Daniel agreed. Lionel sighed, looking tired. Farnsworth is a powerful man with a lot of connections. We can't just ignore him. Public opinion is fickle. He has enough sway to hurt our reputation, maybe even your personal life. Maria felt tears brimming, but blinked them back. So what now? For starters, Daniel said, I'm drafting a statement that clarifies our policy on responsible alcohol service. We'll emphasize that we have the utmost respect for all customers, but we also abide by state laws. It won't call Farnsworth a liar outright, but it'll defend your actions. Lionel added, expect the local news to pick this up. Redwood City might be small compared to San Francisco, but folks around here love a scandal involving a millionaire. Maria inhaled shakily. Understood. Trying to salvage her morning, Maria spent the next few hours focusing on her regular customers, pouring coffee, and greeting the jazz quartet. Despite the swirl of tension, the Sunday brunch crowd was cheerful. An elderly couple, Tom and Rosa Martinez, insisted on sitting in her section, praising her kindness from previous visits. Maria Tom said over his half-eaten omelette, I heard about what happened last night. A friend showed me Farnsworth's post. Don't you worry about that nonsense. Rosa nodded emphatically. You did the right thing, dear. Everyone who's served Farnsworth before knows what a difficult man he is. Redwood City isn't all about millionaires. Their supportive words bolstered Maria's spirits. But just as she was about to deliver a fresh cup of coffee to another table, her phone buzzed. She stole a glance at it, an unknown number. She typically ignored spam calls, but something compelled her to answer. "Hello," she whispered into the phone, stepping briefly into a quieter hallway near the restrooms. "Is this Maria Contreras?" A smooth male voice asked. "Yes. Who's calling?" A pause. "My name is Robert Alvarez. I'm a journalist for Redwood City Insider, an online local news platform. I'd like to talk to you about last night's incident with Alexander Farnsworth." Maria tensed. "How did you get this number? Your co-worker Jason gave me his contact info once for a piece I did on the restaurant," Robert explained. "He didn't give me your number directly. I got that through some cross-referencing. I just want your side of the story." She felt uneasy. Farnsworth was stirring drama, and now the media was calling. "I'm not sure that's appropriate, Mr. Alvarez." "Robert, please. I understand your hesitation, but Farnsworth's post is going viral locally. People are painting you in a negative light. If you don't speak up, the public narrative could be dominated by Farnsworth's version. Don't you want to set the record straight?" Maria hesitated. She glanced around the hallway. "I should talk to my manager first. That's fair. But keep in mind that Farnsworth's team might already be feeding stories to other outlets. I can offer you a fair platform. Think about it." She ended the call with a half-hearted promise to consider it. A million questions swarmed her mind. Would giving an interview help or worsen the situation? Before her shift ended, Maria was summoned to the office again. This time, Daniel was there, with a woman in her mid-40s, wearing a sleek power suit that radiated confidence. "Maria." Daniel said, "This is Patricia Westlake, our restaurant's legal counsel." Patricia extended a hand. "Nice to meet you under these complicated circumstances. I specialize in business litigation and PR crises. Farnsworth's accusations could be considered slanderous, especially if it damages your career or the restaurant's reputation. But let's not get ahead of ourselves." Maria shook her hand. "So you think I need a lawyer?" Patricia gave a thin smile. "You might. The restaurant certainly does." Farnsworth's post is borderline defamatory, but we have to consider Redwood City's tight-knit circles. Farnsworth is known to be vindictive but also impulsive. He might lose interest quickly if he feels he's not getting a reaction. On the other hand, he might double down. Lionel, the owner, stepped in. "We want to ensure you're safe. Patricia can help you craft a statement if you decide to speak with any media. We'll also offer you any security measures if Farnsworth escalates." "Security measures?" Maria echoed, startled. "Do you really think that's necessary?" Daniel and Patricia exchanged looks. "We want to be prepared," Patricia said gently. "Let's not assume the worst, but Farnsworth can be unpredictable." Maria sank into a chair, her exhaustion evident. All she wanted was to do her job, help her family, and live a peaceful life. She never asked for this spotlight. "How about we wait and see how Farnsworth acts in the coming days? We'll finalize our official restaurant statement and remain united," Daniel said. "If Farnsworth or his people approach you again, direct them to Patricia." Maria nodded. "Thank you." Maria's shift ended, and she headed home, her mind swirling with both Farnsworth drama and her mother's health worries. The little house she shared with Anita and their mother was tucked away in a quieter neighborhood. When she walked in, Anita rushed out of the kitchen, concern etched on her face. "Hey," Anita said, softly. "How was work?" Maria sat on the couch, exhaling heavily. "It was intense. I'll explain. But first, how's Mom?" Anita sighed, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "She's resting in her room. The doctor said she needs that new set of tests, but we're looking at over $2,000 just for the preliminary scans." A pang shot through Maria. Their combined savings was already thin. "We'll figure it out," she said, forcing hope into her tone. "I can pick up extra shifts, maybe freelance as a server for events on my days off." Anita frowned. "You're already overworking yourself. Maybe I can find a second job." Maria took her sister's hand. "One step at a time. Let's not let the stress overshadow us. We'll do what we have to do for Mom." She wanted to reassure Anita, but her mind kept drifting to Farnsworth's threat and the swirling gossip. What if Farnsworth finds out about my family situation and uses it against me somehow? The thought was terrifying, but she pushed it aside. They sat in silence for a moment, until Anita ventured. "I saw Farnsworth's post online. Some of my friends were talking about it. It's all over Redwood City Insider." Maria swallowed. "Great. So everyone knows. People are siding with you, though," Anita added quickly. "A few were complaining about Farnsworth's behavior in the past, but there are also those who idolize him." Maria stared at the ceiling. "I just hope it all blows over soon." On Monday, Maria decided to take her mother to a doctor's appointment. She called the restaurant to let them know she'd be in later. Daniel was understanding, given her family situation. The morning air was crisp as they arrived at Redwood General Hospital. While her mother underwent tests, Maria waited in a corridor lined with plastic chairs. She scrolled through her phone, noticing more messages from unknown numbers, probably reporters or curious acquaintances. One message stood out. "I might be able to help with Farnsworth. Let's meet. KR." She frowned. KR. She had no idea who that was. Could it be someone from Farnsworth's circle or a troll? She was about to dismiss it when she received another text. "I know Farnsworth's secrets. This can help you." Her heart raced. Was this a trap? She typed a reply. "Who are you? How did you get my number?" A response came quickly. "I used to work for Farnsworth. Let's just say I'm not his biggest fan. I got your number from a mutual acquaintance. If you don't believe me, look up Ken Rosen Farnsworth scandal from 2019. You'll see my name." Maria felt a jolt of curiosity. She recalled hearing rumors about Farnsworth facing a lawsuit a few years back, something to do with an ex-employee. She typed a quick search on her phone. Ken Rosen Farnsworth, Redwood City Scandal 2019. A handful of articles popped up. Ken Rosen was an accountant who sued Farnsworth for wrongful termination and alleged financial improprieties. The case was settled out of court. Now, apparently, Ken was reaching out to her. Another text appeared. "If you want to talk, meet me at Redwood City Coffee Roasters this afternoon. I have information that might help you." Maria stared at the text. This felt like stepping onto quicksand. But Farnsworth's clout was real, and maybe Ken had something that could protect her or discredit Farnsworth's lies. That afternoon, after ensuring her mother was settled at home, Maria told Anita she had an errand to run. She felt a pang of guilt for not disclosing the full story, but she didn't want to worry her sister further. She arrived at Redwood City Coffee Roasters a cozy cafe with brick walls and a vintage espresso machine. A jazz playlist hummed in the background. The barista recognized her as a server from Sakura Redwood Steakhouse and offered a friendly smile. Maria ordered a latte, scanning the room for someone who fit Ken Rosen's description. She found a man in his late 30s with thinning hair sitting near the back wearing a navy blazer. She approached cautiously. "Ken?" He nodded, extending a hand. "Maria. Thanks for coming." They settled into their seats, both aware of the tension in the air. Ken spoke first. "I know Farnsworth's style. He's going to keep attacking you publicly. But behind the scenes, he's got plenty of skeletons in his closet." Maria cradled her latte, uncertain. "I'm not trying to destroy him. I just want him to stop harassing me and my workplace." Ken sighed. "He thrives on intimidation. Once he realizes you're not easy prey, he might back off. But you'll need some leverage." She frowned. "Leverage?" He slid a manila folder across the small table. "I kept documents from my time as his accountant. Some questionable transactions borderline illegal. I can't say they're enough to get him arrested, but they're definitely enough to scare him into shutting up." Maria's eyes went wide. "If Farnsworth finds out you gave me this—" "He's not exactly my friend," Ken said dryly. "He ruined my career. The settlement I got was a fraction of what I deserved. I've been waiting for the right moment to use this info. I think you are it." She hesitated, flipping open the folder. The documents were dense bank statements, wire transfers, cryptic notes about foreign investments. It was over her head, but she could sense the seriousness. "I'm not comfortable blackmailing him." Ken raised an eyebrow. "I'm not suggesting blackmail. You can let him know subtly that you've heard rumors about certain transactions, and you'd hate for them to become public knowledge. People like Farnsworth run at the first whiff of scandal. Either he backs off or he risks scrutiny." Maria chewed her lip, feeling a moral dilemma. "This isn't who I am. Doing nothing could mean Farnsworth buries you in lawsuits and ruins your name," Ken countered. "Trust me, I've seen it before. He plays dirty, and you need to protect yourself." Torn between fear and indignation, Maria closed the folder. "I'll think about it." Ken gave a half smile. "I hope you do, because Farnsworth won't think twice about leveling you." The drive back to Sakura Redwood Steakhouse was a blur. Maria parked in the employee lot and spent a long moment staring at the folder on her passenger seat. Her conscience wrestled with the notion of using questionable documents to threaten Farnsworth into backing down. On one hand, Farnsworth was launching a public smear campaign that could harm not just Maria, but the restaurant and her future job prospects. On the other, stooping to Farnsworth's level felt wrong. In the end, she hid the folder under the passenger seat. She'd need to carefully consider her next move. Inside the restaurant, the evening rush was just beginning. Jason at the bar waved her over with an expression of relief. "Glad you're here." "We're slammed." Maria plastered on her service smile and jumped into action. For a few hours she immersed herself in the hustle, taking orders, delivering plates, refilling drinks responsibly, of course. The normalcy was comforting. But during a lull, Patricia Westlake, the lawyer, and Lionel Jacobs, the owner, approached her again, wearing grave expressions. "New development," Patricia said quietly. "Farnsworth's legal team just sent a formal letter to corporate. He's accusing you of defamation, claiming you publicly humiliated him and cost him potential business deals." Maria's heart thundered. "That's ridiculous." Lionel shook his head. "He's good at this. He's claiming that by refusing him service, you implied he was incapable of conducting himself properly in public. He's also spinning it that you did it loudly and in front of other patrons to tarnish his reputation. Maria's jaw clenched. That's not what happened at all. Patricia's eyes were full of compassion. I believe you, but Farnsworth's lawyers are threatening a lawsuit unless the restaurant issues a public apology. They also want a disciplinary action against you, so they basically want to see me punished. Maria summarized, her voice shaking. Lionel patted her shoulder. We're not throwing you under the bus. We're working on a legal response, but Farnsworth is playing hardball. Maria's thoughts flashed to the folder hidden in her car. Could it truly be her shield against Farnsworth's aggression? Fear and dread coiled in her chest, but now it seemed she might have no choice. That night after closing, Maria lingered in the parking lot, rummaging through the folder's contents by the light of a street lamp. Bank account numbers, suspicious overseas holdings. A few flagged transactions that might have skirted tax laws. It was all beyond her expertise, but it looked incriminating enough to cause Farnsworth a world of trouble if made public. She weighed her options. 1. Give it to Patricia. Let the restaurant's legal counsel decide how to use it. 2. Confront Farnsworth personally. Risky but direct. 3. Do nothing remain at the mercy of Farnsworth's attacks. Maria stared at the rows of numbers. She thought of her mother's medical bills of the restaurant that had become her second home, of the daily fear that Farnsworth might show up again or unleash more social media attacks. Her moral compass told her not to stoop to Farnsworth's level, but her survival instinct screamed otherwise. Finally, she texted Ken Rosen. I need your advice on how to proceed. He answered almost immediately. A direct confrontation is best. Farnsworth is a bully who only respects strength. If you don't put fear into him, he'll never stop. She exhaled her breath, visible in the cool night air. Adrenaline surged. She typed back, I'll do it. The next day, Maria managed to arrange a meeting with Farnsworth, no easy feat. But Farnsworth's assistant responded to her email surprisingly quickly. Perhaps Farnsworth wanted another chance to berate her. They agreed to meet in the lounge of a downtown Redwood City hotel, where Farnsworth often conducted business or had midday cocktails. Maria arrived in a crisp white blouse and black slacks, the same attire she wore at the restaurant, a subtle reminder of her role. She spotted Farnsworth in a corner booth, swirling a glass of something amber. His expression was unreadable behind tinted sunglasses. She slid into the seat across from him. Her heart pounded, but she held her head high. Mr. Farnsworth, thank you for agreeing to see me. He set his glass down, removing the sunglasses to reveal those piercing eyes. You said you had something important to discuss. I was curious. She took a steadying breath. You've been pursuing legal action against me for following the law by refusing to serve you more alcohol. You're also trashing me online, trying to ruin my reputation. He raised an eyebrow. What's your point? Do you want to beg me to stop? She ignored the jab, opening her purse and pulling out a single document from the folder, an account summary with Farnsworth's name and a suspicious pattern of deposits. She slid it across the table. Farnsworth's eyes flicked over the paper. His expression darkened. Where did you get this? That's not important. What's important is that I have more. Like it, she said, voice steadier than she felt. I don't want a war, Mr. Farnsworth, but if you continue this campaign of legal threats and defamation, I'm prepared to let the public see these documents. He leaned forward, tension radiating off him. Are you blackmailing me? I'm offering a truce, she said. You stop harassing me, Stop attacking the restaurant and let this all fade away. In return, I stay quiet." He glared, lips tight. "This is a dangerous game, girl. Those documents could get you in a world of legal trouble if you use them improperly." "I know the risk," she said, swallowing hard. "But you should know it's not illegal to give such documents to authorities if I suspect wrongdoing. And if you keep pushing me, I might have no choice." Farnsworth clenched his jaw. She expected him to explode, but instead he snorted a humorless laugh. "So the waitress has claws after all. Who fed you this nonsense, Ken Rosen?" She maintained her composure, not answering. He stared at the document again, then looked at her. "Fine. You win for now. I'll tell my lawyers to back off. But if you or that traitor Rosen show these documents to anyone, I'll bury you both. Understood?" Maria's heart hammered, but she gave a curt nod. "I just want to be left alone. My job and my family are more important than this drama." Farnsworth's gaze bored into her. After a moment, he stood, leaving the document on the table. "You're lucky I'm in a generous mood. Don't expect me to forget this." With that, he strode out, leaving the faint smell of cologne in his wake. Maria exhaled sharply, her entire body trembling. She wondered if she'd just made a deal with the devil, or if she'd finally found a way out of the nightmare. Days passed with an uncanny silence. Farnsworth didn't post any new rants. His attorneys retracted their threatening letter. A local gossip site reported Farnsworth had moved on from the scandal. The negative comments toward Maria gradually faded. Daniel and Lionel breathed a sigh of relief when Farnsworth's legal attack ceased, though Patricia Westlake remained vigilant, warning that Farnsworth's next move was unpredictable. Meanwhile, Maria felt uneasy. She had confronted Farnsworth successfully, but the weight of her actions pressed on her conscience. She had leveraged documents that weren't hers to hold him at bay. Even if it felt like the only solution, it still felt morally murky. One evening, she found Ken waiting outside the restaurant, leaning against his car. He smirked as she approached. "He's backed off, huh?" She nodded. "Thank you. I think you saved me." He shrugged. "Maybe I saved myself by extension. Farnsworth knows I'm behind it, which means he'll be careful. But watch your back." Maria nodded, looking off into the distance. Redwood City's skyline glowed with the promise of a new night. "I just want peace." "Me too," Ken admitted softly. Then he cleared his throat. "Any idea what you'll do with the documents?" She hesitated, then handed him the folder from her purse. "They're yours. I don't want them. I have no intention of exposing Farnsworth as long as he leaves me alone." Ken looked surprised. "You trust me to keep them. They're not mine to keep," she said simply. "Just promise me you won't let Farnsworth hurt anyone else with his lies." Ken gave a solemn nod. "I'll do my best." With Farnsworth out of the picture, Sakura Redwood Steakhouse resumed its normal bustle. Regulars returned, and no one spoke of Farnsworth's tantrum, except in hushed recollections. Daniel and Lionel reaffirmed their support for Maria, praising her professionalism and moral courage. One evening, Patricia Westlake stopped by to dine. She pulled Maria aside before leaving, her voice warm. "You did good, kid. I don't know all the details, but Farnsworth dropping everything so suddenly is a victory. If you ever need a reference or legal advice, call me." Touched, Maria thanked her. It felt good to have allies beyond the restaurant, especially people who understood Redwood City's power dynamics. Meanwhile, Jason and Nikki teased her that she'd become a legend among the staff. "No one's messing with you now," Nikki joked, elbowing her playfully. "You're the Farnsworth slayer." Maria just laughed, feeling her cheeks warm. "Don't spread that around." With the Farnsworth nightmare winding down, Maria turned her focus back to her mother's health. The next round of tests loomed, but so did the financial burden. One day, Maria opened her locker at work to find a small envelope taped to the inside. She opened it, finding a note. "Just because you're a tough waitress doesn't mean you don't need help sometimes. A friend." Inside was a cashier's check for $2,000. Maria's eyes stung with tears. She had no idea who sent it. Daniel, Lionel, and Patricia swore it wasn't them. Jason shrugged when she asked, and Nikki swore she'd never seen the envelope. Could it have been Farnsworth guilt-ridden or wanting to keep her quiet? Or maybe Ken Rosen. In the end, the source remained a mystery. The money, however, was real and enough to cover her mother's new tests. Maria accepted it, gratefully feeling that some unseen guardian angel was watching over them. A couple of weeks later, her mother's tests were completed, revealing a condition that, while serious, was treatable with proper medication and lifestyle changes. The relief that flooded their small home was palpable. Anita cried tears of joy, hugging Maria tightly. Their mother, though tired, managed a faint smile, grateful for the chance at a healthier future. With Farnsworth drama behind her and her mother finally receiving the care she needed, Maria felt the first genuine sense of peace in months. The restaurant thrived, and Redwood City moved on to its next gossip topic. One clear evening after a long shift, Maria locked up the restaurant with Jason and stepped outside. The bustling Redwood City nightlife shimmered around them. Jason turned to her. "You okay?" She paused, taking in the stars above. "Yeah, I'm good. Better than good, actually." They walked toward the parking lot, the crisp air carrying the scent of nearby bay waters. "I've been thinking about everything that happened," she said softly. Farnsworth tested my limits, made me question my beliefs. But I realized something important. Jason glanced at her. "What's that?" "That doing the right thing can be terrifying, but it doesn't mean it's not worth it. I refused to serve him because he was drunk. It was a simple ethical stance, but it spiraled into a huge conflict. I had moments where I thought I'd lose my job, my reputation, or worse. But at the end of the day, if I had to do it over again, I'd still say no to over-serving him, because that's the kind of person I want to be." Jason smiled. The Farnsworth slayer indeed. She laughed, rolling her eyes. "I don't want that title. But I'll take a glass of wine off the clock, of course." He chuckled. "Deal. My treat." They parted ways in the parking lot, each heading to their own cars. In her rear-view mirror, Maria caught a glimpse of her reflection. She looked tired, but there was a glow of resilience in her eyes. Farnsworth's shadow no longer loomed over her. She pulled out of the lot, driving toward a future that felt more promising than ever. Thank you for listening to this emotional roller coaster of a story. Maria's courage in standing up for what's right reminds us that doing good often comes at a price, but it's still worth paying. If you found yourself cheering for Maria, holding your breath during the showdowns with Farnsworth, and feeling relief at her final victory, then you know how powerful a single act of integrity can be. That's a message the whole world needs more of. If this story resonated with you, please give the video a thumbs up. Share it with friends who could use a reminder that one brave choice can turn a whole situation around. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe for more compelling stories like this one. Together we'll keep shining a light on acts of courage, big or small, that make our world a better place.